Markets not doing very much. Stock-wise, there is a lot of action. I mean, I think that is very, very clear. It's been clear for a while. Sun Pharma on the downside, Idea and some pharmaceutical stocks, Lupin, Dr. Reddy's. I mean, huge move coming in over the last couple of minutes. I mean, actually, the last 15 minutes or so, the stock has done extremely well. What's happening with Dr. Reddy's? So essentially, the company has launched Nexium in the US market. This was a much awaited approval, and it's significant because Nexium capsules, brand and generic, had sales of about $5 billion in the US, annual sales of $5 billion in the US. Dr. Reddy's had filed an API for Nexium earlier. The facility from where Dr. Reddy's filed for the API, that's active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is essentially the compound, the building blocks for the drug. That facility, that facility was Srikakulam. That had received a 483 observation from FDA during the inspection in November 2014. Now, Form 483 essentially is a warning letter, and the company is supposed to take remedial action, and after which, if the FDA is not satisfied, there is a chance that an import alert is issued, which means the facility is not able to export anything into the US. So this had the facility from which they had filed the API for Nexium in the US had received a Form 483 essentially warning. And after that, Dr. Reddy's had taken a site transfer post the inspection and had refiled the product with the FDA from another site. And now, Dr. Reddy's has been able to launch the product in the market. Remember, Teva, for which the API is supplied by Cipla, and Mylan are the only players to market the generic version of Nexium so far. Torrent Pharma, Lupin, and Sun are awaiting approval for Nexium still. Dr. Reddy's has been the first to actually hit the market with this particular product. I mean, expectations of revenues, etc., I think are too early. Remember, they're not selling the drug itself. They're not selling Nexium itself, the branded product itself. They're selling the API, for the product in the market. Okay, so they have, we'll get to the numbers with Surajit Pal, who's joining us right now. I'm being told he's ready with us. Surajit, good morning. Good to have you with us here. Surajit is pharmaceutical analyst with Prabhudas Lilladher. Surajit, thank you very much. Good to have you with us here. When I guess timely appearance, Surajit.
Thank you.
With the Nexium approval for Dr. Reddy's. Can you talk to us a little bit about this?
Yeah, I think it's a very positive, and I'm expecting very good traction for the company, given that very limited number of approvals has been given till date, and it will remain limited, given that the guys who are waiting in the list or queue has some manufacturing issues or some incomplete filings are there. So given those kind of scenario, I believe that it will remain limited between few companies for next 1 year at least. Overall, I think the company, Dr. Reddy, refiled it with site transfer from Srikakulam, which was previously their original API supply site. So they were supposed to get it in November itself, but due to those observations, this has been delayed, and as a result of it, they filed it from the other API plant source, and that took away around 11 months, all put together. They refiled it in the month of March 2015, and I was expecting that the approval could come in near to medium term, so it has finally come.
Actually, Surajit had come on the show on the 10th of this month, and he essentially said that Dr. Reddy's, along with Aurobindo, I mean, actually DRL is one of those companies which he's the most positive on, which can resolve some of the FDA-related issues the fastest. So just talk to us a little bit about this. So does this mean the facilities are in the clear for DRL or not really? Because they had refiled this, right?
No, yeah, they refile it from other plants. So this approval does not necessarily mean that their Srikakulam is out of the observational issue, or they have resolved their issues in Srikakulam. There is no clarity on that. But they received this file because they refile it with site transfer from Srikakulam to another plant which they have not disclosed. But this file is basically with site transfer, so that does mean that Srikakulam is not necessarily to be clear.
So it's a what, $5 billion product, right? Brand and generic combined.
$5 billion on IMS number. Yeah, that is IMS number. But if you go by company reported numbers, I think it is roughly around 1.8 to $2 billion market. So I think that should be taken as a base for calculation. So I'm expecting
taken as the base for calculation, you
6
said?
months remaining. That should be taken a base for calculation for generic opportunity.
Which number?
What happens?
Sorry, I missed the number, Surajit. What is the number?
1.8 to $2 billion that has been reported by the patent holder company in their annual report.
The generic size essentially.
No, it's not generic size. See, what happened is that the number IMS data you received that has a lot of excess in between. I mean, in a sense that market, intermediaries, all those kind of commissions and all those excesses are there. So if you really see the IMS number vis-a-vis the company reported in their annual report, there is quite a big gap. I mean, generally this gap is more for branded bigger guys, and that is mainly for that out of across the board estimation or across the board negotiations between the company and the intermediaries. So that number is basically 1.8 to $2 billion opportunity, which generic guys should be taken as a base for their calculation. And accordingly, I believe that Dr. Reddy will have opportunity for 6 months for this year, and that ultimately gives me idea of around 10 to 12% market share with 60 to 70% price erosion. I got also a sense that no other generic guys are very aggressive. I mean, they don't want to spoil the market. So from that perspective, and given that 40% of the branded market still yet to be genericized, so put together, I believe this year Reddy could get 10 to 12% market share, and next year, next 2 years they could get it around, anything between 15 to 20% market share on a conservative basis. So from that perspective, I believe 12 rupees EPS could be addition from this opportunity in FY16 and around 19 rupees for FY17.
Right. Just on that calculation, so $1.8 billion, you deflate that by pricing goes down, you said 60-70%, and assume a 10% market share. Those are the numbers, right?
10 to 12% market share, yes.
10 to 12% market share. Yeah, I mean, but pretty crazy, right? I mean, the price difference. IMS says 5 billion, you're saying 1.8. I mean, the difference is very, very large for the drug.
I mean, you will find generally for this kind of, yes.
Okay. On Wockhardt as well, I've heard some chatter that the FDA restrictions on, I think, the Valuj plant has been lifted. I don't think it's been confirmed by the company as yet, but are you hearing something on that on that aspect as well, Wockhardt?
I also heard it from market, but I haven't received it anything officially. I mean, I haven't seen it officially.
Right. The news flow on Lupin, where sorry, beg your pardon, Sun Pharma, where when Sun Pharma Advanced Research had received an approval early this year, in March this year, which has now been withdrawn. This is for a molecule. What does it mean for Sun Pharma? Does it mean that the Halol facility is going to take much longer for the issues there to resolve, because that is also under, I mean, it's not exporting very much to the US, right? And the potential is some $250 million annually.
The news is that Spark received an approval on levetiracetam, which is basically NDA product on 1 GM and 1.5 GM of Keppra or levetiracetam. It was non-abbreviated approval, so Sun Pharma was supposed to sell it as a brand of epilepsy elixir. But surprisingly, both Sun or Spark has not yet started to market it till date, before it has been revoked yesterday. So I believe that the revocation with citing that manufacturing issues are there in Halol is definitely does not augur well for Sun Pharma, to be specific. In a sense that it shows that the company's initiative till the FDA's last visit, which is almost, I think, 3 months back, is not yet in the visibility of getting resolution in near term. So which means that FY16, the Halol business contribution, excluding Lipodox, will be much lower than what is market expectation.
All right, fair enough. So that is the news on Sun. Just to go back to the 10th conversation that we had earlier this month, when you said that, the companies which will take very long to resolve issues, you said Ranbaxy and Wockhardt essentially. Will anything change on Wockhardt at the Valuj facility? The buzz that the FDA restriction has been lifted, will it change completely? Will Wockhardt then, what happens then? If that is true, if it is confirmed by the company essentially?
I think Valuj, if Valuj got resolution, then definitely it's a positive for Wockhardt. And they may not get back their previous revenue, which is roughly around, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was around 65 to 80 million revenue from US for Valuj. So they may not get back those revenue immediately. The reason being is it's a generic market. The valuation is already been discounted further. There will be further generic, and they have to start from zero because their market share has gone to their competitors. So definitely they will not get back those 65 to 80 million. It will be much lesser than that, provided they decided to re-enter all the products they lost because of the restriction on manufacturing issues. But it's a positive in a sense that they may start getting the approval for all the product which has been stuck for a long time. I mean, say at least for last 2.5 years, those approval could come and they could re-enter into those expected approval market. So that could be positive for the company.
Thanks very much. Great speaking with you, Surajit. It's a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Surajit Pal with Prabhudas Lilladher. He's the pharmaceutical analyst with everything on pharma.